Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94 here, back with another reaction video. Today, we finna react to 10 animated classics you never saw because they were banned. This should be interesting. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
Censorship isn't just about burning books or snipping scenes from movies. It's about erasing entire worlds before you ever get the chance to see them. Imagine a film so powerful, so unsettling, or just so weird, governments around the globe decided you weren't allowed to watch it. But what exactly are these forbidden cartoons hiding? And why do authorities fear a few animated frames more than a full-blown blockbuster? Strap in, because some classics are missing from your childhood for a reason. Persepolis 2007. You know a movie's hit a nerve when it's banned in the very country whose story it tells. Persepolis isn't just another coming-of-age tale. It's a black-and-white grenade lobbed straight into the heart of Iran's political conscience. Based on Marjane Satrapi's graphic memoir, this film chronicles her childhood under the shadow of the Iranian Revolution. It's raw, unfiltered, and absolutely fearless. But apparently, that's just a little too real for the authorities.
I think I remember this. I think I remember seeing this. They used to put this on, I believe they used to put this on, on Stars a lot. Stars and Encore. They used to put this on Stars and Encore a lot. Yeah, I do remember this. Then it got taken down. They said they got super upset about this shit.
From the very first frame, Persepolis grabs you by the collar and drags you through a world of clashing ideologies, religious crackdowns, and bittersweet humor. The animation, simple but striking, turns every frame into a protest poster. You can see why governments got twitchy. In Iran, the film wasn't just banned, it was demonized as anti-Islamic and a tool of Western propaganda. State television labeled it a dark distortion, and anyone caught screening it risked punishment. But the censorship didn't stop at Iran's borders. Lebanon, for instance, initially pulled the film from cinemas after pressure from Shiite clerics who thought it insulted Islam and the Islamic Republic. Only after a national uproar did the ban get reversed. Other Middle Eastern countries quietly blacklisted Persepolis, never allowing its radical honesty to flicker across their screens. So, what was so terrifying? Was it the unvarnished look at female rebellion? The punk rock soundtrack to Marjane's teenage angst? Or maybe just the bold message, think for yourself, even if it hurts? Either way, Persepolis became an icon of forbidden cinema, proof that sometimes animation can shake regimes more than any action movie ever could. If you haven't seen it, you're not alone, but maybe it's time you asked why. The Simpsons Movie, 2007.
Let's get bad.
You wouldn't think a cartoon about a dysfunctional American family could threaten a regime, but welcome to Burma, where yellow skin isn't just a character design, it's a political statement. The Simpsons Movie was a global box office juggernaut, but in Myanmar, Burma, it got the axe for a reason so wild you'd think it was a gag from the show itself. The color yellow was banned. Sounds like satire, right?
Yep.
Wrong. The Myanmar government had spent years cracking down on the color yellow, specifically its association with pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi and her supporters, who adopted yellow as their symbol. When The Simpsons Movie landed in theaters in 2007, censors took one look at the jaundiced cast and decided the whole thing was subversive. Forget nuclear meltdowns, pig poop domes, or Spider-Pig. The real threat was Homer's skin tone. Authorities feared the film might spark unrest, or worse, turn into a meme factory for the resistance. Officially, it was banned for unacceptable content and colors. In reality, it was about suppressing any whiff of rebellion, even if it was animated and lived on donuts. The movie's satire on environmental disaster and government incompetence probably didn't help its case either. After all, when a government's so thin-skinned it's banning cartoons for their palate, a little self-reflection is off the table. In the end, Burmese fans had to settle for bootleg DVDs and whispered jokes. Proof that in the world of censorship, even a cartoon family can become public enemy number one. So, next time you see that familiar yellow glow, remember, In some places, a color can be more dangerous than a punchline.
I don't live there, so I don't
Grave
care.
of the Fireflies, 1988. Animation is supposed to be an escape, right? Not so fast. Grave of the Fireflies hits like a gut punch wrapped in cellophane. Studio Ghibli's haunting masterpiece is the rare war film that dares you to look at suffering and refuses to blink. In some places, that's exactly why it got shelved. Set during the final days of World War II, Grave of the Fireflies follows two siblings, Seta and Setsuko, as they struggle to survive the firebombing of Kobe. There are no magical creatures here, no princesses or spells, just hunger, grief, and the terrible price of war. The animation, lush and heartbreakingly beautiful, only sharpens the pain. No wonder censors in Russia and parts of Eastern Europe decided this was a story best left untold. Officially, the film was restricted or outright banned for its unpatriotic message and depiction of Japanese civilian suffering. During the Cold War era, Russian censors were wary of anything that might stoke anti-war sentiment or question the glory of military sacrifice. Even decades later, the film was rarely screened in certain regions deemed inappropriate for young audiences. But the real controversy is more universal. Grave of the Fireflies refuses to glamorize war. There are no heroes here, only victims. It's a movie that makes you uncomfortable, and that's exactly the point. In the end, it was easier for some governments to lock it away than to face its unflinching honesty. For those lucky or unlucky enough to watch it, the film lingers like a bruise. And for everyone else? The band says it all. Sometimes the truth hurts too much for polite company. South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, 1999. Okay, so this one's less classic bedtime story and more animated Molotov cocktail. But you can't talk about banned cartoons without South Park's filthy, fearless feature-length rampage.
I wouldn't be surprised if this got banned in certain countries. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if this is banned in Canada. Hey, fuck you, buddy. What is this all about? Bruh, I would not be surprised if this shit is banned in Canada. If they say this shit is banned in Canada, hey, Canada. Fuck Canada. Fuck Canada. They're not even a real country anyway. Nah, no offense to Canada, though. No offense. But this is still a funny ass movie, bruh. To this day, this is still probably a funny ass movie, bruh. I used to watch the shit out of this. Like, if there was no new movies out at Blockbuster, I would always go and find this. I swear I would. I would always go and find this because I needed it, bruh. I needed it, bruh. This shit was hilarious, bruh. Every time this would come on Comedy Central, every now and again when this would come on Comedy Central on the weekends and shit, bruh, you just had to be, man, had to catch it when you could, bruh.
South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut isn't just controversial. It's a full-throttle, take-no-prisoners roast of everything sacred, from Hollywood to war to the very idea of censorship itself. So it's no surprise that when this movie dropped, whole countries hit the panic button. Iraq, Kuwait, Indonesia, and several other nations slammed the door shut, citing blasphemy, vulgarity, and political subversion. In Iraq, Saddam Hussein was so incensed by his portrayal as Satan's lover that he banned the film outright and reportedly had copies destroyed.
That's kind of understandable. I understand Saddam Hussein. What about Canada, though?
Indonesia called it a threat to public morality. Kuwait didn't even bother with an excuse, just straight up said no. But the bans weren't just about rude jokes and cartoon swearing. In places like Singapore and Malaysia, censors zeroed in on the film's lampooning of religion and authority. They argued that its irreverent take on everything from the devil to Canadian politics could inspire unrest, or worse, make people laugh at their leaders. The real irony? The movie's entire plot is about fighting censorship. In classic South Park fashion, creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone turned their own experience with the MPAA into a plotline, complete with government panic and musical numbers about free speech. For some fans, the bans only made it more appealing, a forbidden fruit served up with fart jokes and fourth wall breaks. Love it or hate it, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is proof that sometimes the best way to make a point about censorship is to get banned everywhere you can. The King and the Mockingbird, 1980. Imagine a fairy tale so subversive, governments felt threatened by talking birds and bumbling kings. That's the legacy of The King and the Mockingbird, a French animated classic that spent decades in obscurity, not because it was forgotten, but because it was forbidden. Adapted from a Hans Christian Andersen story and directed by Paul Grimaud, this film is a surrealist, anti-authoritarian romp through a totalitarian kingdom. The plot follows a mockingbird and a chimney sweep as they outwit a despotic king. The visuals are wild, the satire razor-sharp. But in the eyes of the Soviet bloc, it was basically an illustrated rebellion manual. In the 1980s, censors in the USSR and Eastern Europe weren't laughing. The film's critique of power, its parody of surveillance, propaganda, and personality cults, hit way too close to home. Officially, it was not in line with socialist values. Unofficially, it was just a little too relatable. Screenings were canceled, prints pulled from circulation, and generations of would-be fans left in the dark. What's wild is that The King and the Mockingbird went on to inspire everyone from Hayao Miyazaki to the creators of The Iron Giant. Its banned status only added to its legend. Years later, when the Iron Curtain lifted, the film finally got the audience it deserved, revealing a lost chapter of animation history, hidden by the very regimes it mocked. It's proof that even the most whimsical cartoons can carry messages powerful enough to scare dictators. Next time you see a talking bird outsmarting a tyrant, remember, sometimes the truth needs a few feathers. Animal Farm, 1954. Picture this. A bunch of farm animals band together, overthrow their human owner, and build a new society, only to discover that some pigs are a lot more equal than others. It sounds innocent, until you realize it's a razor-sharp allegory for revolution, dictatorship, and political betrayal. Animal Farm, the first British feature-length animated film, was never just a cartoon. It was a ticking time bomb for totalitarian regimes, and they knew it. Based on George Orwell's classic novel, the 1954 adaptation pulls zero punches. The cold, bleak landscapes, the gradual corruption of the animals' revolution, and the final gut-punch scene where pigs and humans become indistinguishable, all of it is pure subversion. You didn't have to squint hard to see Stalin's Russia in the power-hungry pig Napoleon. For the Soviet bloc, this wasn't just unfriendly, it was radioactive. Censors across the Eastern Bloc moved fast. In the USSR, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and their satellite states, Animal Farm was immediately blacklisted. It was forbidden in schools, public cinemas, and even libraries. State media denounced it as capitalist propaganda, and teachers were warned never to mention it. The message was clear. If you want to keep control, don't let the farm animals start thinking for themselves. But the story didn't end there. Smuggled copies found their way into underground film clubs and private living rooms, giving the movie a shadowy afterlife. In the West, Animal Farm became a symbol of resistance, proof that ideas, even in the form of talking pigs, could leap borders and challenge dictators. And here's the kicker. The film was partly funded by the CIA, who saw it as a Cold War weapon. That only added to its mythos. So, next time someone tells you cartoons are just for kids, remind them of Animal Farm, the cartoon that scared government so much they'd rather you never saw it at all. Winnie the Pooh. Franchise/2018. Sweet, bumbling, honey-loving Pooh, public enemy number one? Believe it. In China, the simple act of drawing or sharing an image of Winnie the Pooh could get you censored, and sometimes even blocked from social media. It all started with a meme, but what followed was the kind of bizarre, surreal censorship.
Yeah, because he don't wear no pants. Because he don't wear no pants. That's why they kicked him out. And then I think something about Piglet and something about Pooh wearing no pants got this shit banned for some odd reason. I'm so happy that I live in America where, well, they censor shit here too. And it's only going to get worse. They censor comedians. They censor certain movies now. I recently saw like some channel was about to play Rush Hour, and before they played it, they said, "We love 90 buddy sitcoms, but this was back in the 90s. We don't believe in any of the jokes that were told here." Man, if you don't get the fuck out of here with that pussy ass shit and just start the fucking movie, fuck out of here, dog. This shit it's getting pussy around here, bro. It's getting very restrictive around here, bro.
You usually only find in, well, animated movies. The trouble began in 2013 when Chinese netizens started comparing President Xi Jinping to Pooh Bear in viral images. The resemblance was, let's say, unfortunate. Side-by-side shots of Xi and Pooh became an inside joke that quickly snowballed into a subversive symbol of dissent. The Chinese government, never one for a good laugh at their own expense, acted fast. Pooh was quietly scrubbed from Chinese social media, and searching for the bear's name online could result in error messages, or worse, visits from authorities. But the censorship didn't stop at memes. When Disney's live-action Christopher Robin 2018 rolled out worldwide, it never made it to Chinese theaters. The government denied it a release visa, and officials offered no explanation. The subtext was crystal clear. This bear was now too politically sensitive for the world's most populous nation. The ripple effects didn't end there. Pooh merchandise disappeared from stores. Theme park events were quietly canceled. Even a Polish university had to cancel a lecture about Winnie the Pooh after complaints from the Chinese embassy. When a children's cartoon can unsettle a global superpower, you know you're in uncharted territory. So the next time you see that red-shirted bear ambling along, remember, sometimes the smallest characters can cast the biggest political shadows. The Adventures of Tintin. The Blue Lotus, 1936, animated serial. Before Steven Spielberg brought Tintin to the big screen, there was a little-known hand-animated serial that might just be the most controversial of all the young reporter's adventures. The Blue Lotus was banned in China almost as soon as it was created. Why? Because sometimes it's not just the story, it's who gets to tell it. The Blue Lotus, originally a comic by Hergé, adapted for the screen in the 1930s, tackled the Japanese invasion of China and colonial exploitation head-on. It was rare, even radical, in its sympathy for the Chinese and its critique of foreign occupation. But to the Chinese government, still reeling from decades of foreign interference and internal strife, any Western portrayal of their country was suspect, especially one that painted them as victims and others as villains. The animated serial's colonial overtones, use of stereotypes, and outside perspective made censors nervous. It was labeled as distorting China's image, and bans followed swiftly. Even as the Tintin franchise exploded globally, the Blue Lotus was blacklisted in China, and later versions were heavily edited before being allowed into the country. But here's where it gets tricky. The story, intended as an anti-imperialist statement, became a casualty of the very politics it tried to critique. Fans in China and across Asia sought out pirated copies and black market prints. Meanwhile, Western critics hailed it as proof that comics and animation could tackle real-world injustice. Today, the Blue Lotus is a cult object, proof that even globe-trotting boy reporters can become lightning rods for cultural wars. If you've never seen it, you're not alone. Sometimes history's most interesting chapters are the ones everyone tried to erase. Fantastic Planet, 1973. If your only exposure to animation is singing mice and princesses, Fantastic Planet will blow your mind, and maybe your sense of reality too. René Laloux's surreal French-Czech sci-fi is equal parts mind trip and political manifesto, set on a planet where tiny humans' oms are kept as pets by giant blue aliens, drags. Trippy, right? Censors in the Eastern Bloc didn't think it was so amusing. Released at the height of Cold War paranoia, Fantastic Planet was quickly flagged by Soviet and Eastern European censors. Why? It was a thinly veiled allegory for authoritarianism and the struggle for freedom. The Drags' repressive society, the Oms' underground rebellion, and the hallucinatory animation all added up to a film that seemed tailor-made to inspire dissent. The movie's experimental jazz soundtrack, dreamlike visuals, and abstract storytelling were unlike anything audiences or censors had ever seen. Officially, the film was banned for ideological subversion. Unofficially, authorities feared its anti-authoritarian message might catch on with restless youth and intellectuals. Bootleg copies circulated among students and artists, adding to its underground mystique. In Czechoslovakia, where parts of it were animated, the government tried to ignore it out of embarrassment. But word got out, and Fantastic Planet became a symbol of creative rebellion, a film too radical to be trusted, too beautiful to be forgotten. Watching it today is like opening a forbidden portal into a world where art and politics collide in the wildest possible way. And if you ever wondered whether animation could threaten the powerful Fantastic Planet, is the answer. Just ask the censors who tried to wipe it from history. Princess Mononoke, 1997. Think Studio Ghibli is all whimsical spirits and gentle magic? Think again. Princess Mononoke is a sweeping epic of gods, demons, and the collision between nature and industry. A film so intense, even its lush animation feels dangerous. When it debuted, it wowed critics and audiences worldwide, except notably in the Persian Gulf. The United Arab Emirates refused to release Princess Mononoke in theaters. The reason? The film's animist spirituality, graphic violence, and pagan elements. Ghibli's epic isn't shy about showing blood, rage, and moral ambiguity. Gods aren't cute, they're terrifying. And humanity's relationship with nature is anything but simple. Censors balked at the religious themes, animal gods, tree spirits, and humans wielding curses. In a region where religious content is tightly controlled, a movie glorifying ancient, non-Abrahamic spirituality was never going to fly. The film's violence didn't help either. Limbs fly, curses ooze, and there's a body count you just don't see in most family animation. But here's the irony. What censors found dangerous is what made Princess Mononoke a masterpiece. Its message that the world is messy and no one is purely good or evil resonated with fans everywhere else. The ban only made the film more sought after in the Gulf, where anime fanatics swapped bootleg VHS tapes and imported DVDs, risking confiscation at customs. Today, Princess Mononoke stands as proof that great animation doesn't always come wrapped in a moral bow. Sometimes it asks the toughest questions, and if you want to see it in certain countries, you'll have to break a few rules yourself. So, what do you think? Were these cartoons really too dangerous, or just too bold for comfort? Maybe censorship isn't about protecting us from stories, but protecting the powerful from questions they...
Well, it's clear that this is just a power move for certain countries because they just don't want to deal with, the type of stuff that goes on in other countries. So that give out free will, but it is what it is. Well, Hey man, just watching this makes me proud to be an American, man. Sometimes, not all the times, but proud to be an American, man. Because if I was anywhere else in this world, shit would suck. He gonna hold you. Shit would suck dick, bro. I'm proud to be an American. But anyways, though, that's just gonna about do it for this one. I will see you all in the next video. Till then, bye.